10 crazy Nazi inventions. Number 10, Krummlauf. Krummlauf is the German term for a curved barrel. It was a special attachment for the barrel of the Sturmgewehr 44 St. G44 assault rifle, which allowed the bullet to change its direction of flight by 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, or 90 degrees. A periscope sight was attached to the attachment, which allowed the gunner to observe the target from around a corner or from inside an armoured vehicle. Krummlauf was an innovative and creative solution that was intended to give the Germans a tactical advantage on the battlefield. The principle of operation of the Krummlauf was simple. After being fired from the rifle barrel, the projectile fell into the curved part of the cap and, under the influence of centrifugal force, changed its flight path by an appropriate angle. It then flew out of the cap and towards the target. Krummlauf also had many flaws and technical problems. The curved barrel had a very short life, about 160 to 300 shots. The curvature placed a heavy load on the barrel and the bullet, which often broke into tiny fragments, creating an unintended pellet effect. Another problem was that the curvature reduced the bullet's speed and range. Number 9, Kugelpanzer. This is a German armoured fighting vehicle from World War II. The vehicle is believed to be a single-seat reconnaissance vehicle. Kugelpanzer is literally an armoured bullet. The ability to move was provided by 2 large side wheels integrated into the body, and stabilisation by a third small wheel placed at the back on the boom. The vehicle, with a diameter of about 1.5 metres, weighed 1.8 tonnes, and its interior was protected by 5mm thick armour. The interior protection was therefore symbolic, protecting only against shrapnel and some small caliber bullets. There is a small horizontal and unprotected observation slit on the front armour. The drive of this strange structure was provided by a small one-cylinder engine with a power of 25 horsepower. Despite its simplicity, the Kugelpanzer is one of the more mysterious vehicles of World War II. Only a few facts are known for sure. The Kugelpanzer was created in Germany, probably fell into the hands of the Japanese, and at the end of World War II it was captured by Red Army soldiers. Only one example of this vehicle is known, and it is currently in the Tank Museum in Kubinka, Russia. Number 8, Schwerer Gustav. This is a German 800mm railway gun, the largest and most expensive gun in history. Work on the cannon began in 1935 at the Krupp plant and was initiated by Adolf Hitler. Hitler wanted a weapon capable of destroying the fortifications of the French Maginot Line with one shot. However, construction work took a very long time, and the gun was not ready until 1942. The dimensions of the weapon were impressive. The gun had a caliber of 80 centimeters, a barrel 32.5 meters long, and was mounted on a railway platform. The entire railway assembly, including the gun and the necessary rolling stock, weighed approximately 1,350 tons, roughly as much as a destroyer-class ship. The gun had a range of up to 50 kilometers and fired 7-ton shells. This direct service required 250 soldiers, but the total staff involved in Gustav's service amounted to 2,500 people. Gustav was used during the Siege of Sevastopol in 1942, where it proved to be an extremely effective weapon. It hit one of the main ammunition depots of the Sevastopol fortress. There is some inaccuracy regarding the number of guns of this type produced. At least 2 more units were planned to be built, but the additional guns were never completed. However, confusion is caused by the names Gustav and Dora. Some sources treat them as 2 separate guns, but according to others, Dora was a proper name used by Gustav's staff, which would indicate the combat use of only one copy. Despite its theoretically enormous capabilities, the gun had limited effectiveness in practice because it was very inaccurate. It could hit a city, but not a specific bunker or building. Number 7, Landkreuzer P1000 Ratte. This is a super heavy tank design intended for the armed forces of the Third Reich. Designed by Krupp in 1942 and approved by Adolf Hitler, it was finally abandoned in early 1943. Construction of the prototype was started but never completed. Weighing 1,000 tons, the P1000 Ratte would be more than 5 times heavier than the Panzerkampfwagen 8 Maus tank. The Ratte was to be 35 meters long. The vehicle was to be armed with 2 280mm guns mounted in a turret used on Scharnhorst-class battleships. One of these turrets was produced before the project was finally abandoned and later used in a shore gun battery in Norway. The tank was also to be armed with a single 128mm gun, 8 20mm Flak 38 anti-aircraft guns, and 2 15mm machine guns. There were to be 3 1.2 meter wide tracks on the sides of the tank. The drive was to be 2 24-cylinder MAN engines with a power of 8,500 horsepower each to achieve the required 16,000 horsepower needed to move the vehicle. Due to the enormous mass and size of the Rat, there was no possibility of practical use of this tank. Number 6. Landkreuzer P1500 Monster. This is a German self-propelled gun project from World War II. It was the largest self-propelled gun designed in the Third Reich. The P-1500 Monster is a self-propelled version of the Schwerer Gustav railway gun. Work on this vehicle began in 1942. Monster outperformed Ratte in every respect. Its crew numbered at as many as 100 people. It weighed 1,500 tons, was 42 meters long, and its 800mm cannon straight from the Krupp plant was supposed to throw 7-ton projectiles at a distance of up to 50 kilometers. 4 diesel engines previously used to power U-boats were to be used as propulsion. Additionally, it was to be equipped with 4 powerful supports to absorb the recoil force. The armor thickness was to range from 220mm to 360mm on the most important elements. The biggest problem turned out to be the pressure on the ground, as a machine of this size would simply collapse. This issue was finally solved by designing tracks with a width slightly smaller than the width of the chassis. This gun did not make it out of the design phase, as already in 1943 the project was abandoned at the same time as the P-1000, due to costs and failures at the front. Unlike the P-1000 Rat model, for which one turret was constructed, no attempt was ever made to construct it. Its purpose is unknown, as such a large structure would be too slow and vulnerable to air attacks and mines. Number 5. Solar weapon. The Sonnengewehr, or solar cannon, is, to put it simply, a mirror with an area of up to 9 square kilometers, located in orbit, which would focus the sun's rays and direct them in the direction chosen by the Nazis. According to the assumptions, it would be able to destroy entire cities, and the first work on it was started by Hermann Oberth in 1923. The inventor was absolutely convinced that making a solar weapon was possible. The project was supposed to cost $3 billion at that time, and with one beam it would destroy over 5,000 square meters of surface and even boil ocean waters. Sonnengewehr would orbit the planet like a mirror space station. Nazi scientists estimated that this could be done within 50 years. This was, of course, completely unrealistic. Nevertheless, in 1945, the American press argued that experts from the US Army had discovered evidence in Germany, i.e. drawings, that the Nazis from the Hillersleben Center were considering building a Sonnengewehr, a solar cannon. Number 4. V3 cannon. This is one of 3 German retaliatory weapons designed similarly to the V1 flying bomb and the V2 rocket during World War II. However, unlike them, the V3 was not a type of guided missile, but a cannon in which the bullet's speed was given by explosions triggered sequentially as the charge moved inside the barrel. Small rocket engines were placed in pairs along the barrel. Thanks to this unusual design, V3 was codenamed Stnoga, centipede. What was the purpose of such a strange structure? In this way, they wanted to achieve exceptionally high acceleration, thanks to which the gun was to have a huge range, over 150 kilometers. The guns finally reached a length of 120 meters, and despite being shorter than the original design, they were still the largest guns at the disposal of the Third Reich. Their size exceeded even such famous guns as Gustav or Krupp K5. The muzzle velocity of the bullet, which weighed 140 kilograms, was to reach 1,500 meters per second. The cannon was only intended to completely destroy London, so the inability to aim accurately was not required. The first work on the structure was carried out in Poland. 3 V3 test launchers were built in Zalessie on Wollin Island. The target battery was located in a large underground complex near Calais, France. The complex was to include 2 bunkers, each with 25 150mm guns grouped in 5 shafts of 5. The guns never fired on London. After only 3 test shots were fired, the complex was destroyed by an air raid by Allied troops. However, the program was not suspended. The Germans decided to build a smaller version of the V3 and installed it near Luxembourg. However, the effectiveness was low, and Luxembourg, located 43 kilometers away, was practically unscathed. Number 3. Hortenho 229. This is a steel and wooden German flying wing aircraft manufactured in 1945. It was designed by the Horten brothers based on their earlier prototype from the late 1930s. The Ho 229 was the world's first aircraft equipped with 2 jet engines. Surprisingly, it was made in stealth technology, which was a significant achievement at that time. Its maximum speed was almost 1,000 kilometers per hour. However, it almost twice exceeded the range requirement, which was as much as 1,930 kilometers. The machine was 7.5 meters long, 16.8 meters wingspan, and could fly at a ceiling of up to 16 kilometers. After the occupation of Germany by the Allied forces, several surviving copies and prototypes of the Hortenho 229 were sent to the USA, where their technology was carefully examined by American scientists. It is in order to reduce the detection of the machine that many wooden elements have been installed in it. For these reasons, the Horten brothers plane is sometimes considered the precursor of the American B-2 Spirit. As an interesting fact, it can be added that the Hortenho 229 was one of the German Wunderwaffe, but like most of the Nazi miracle weapons, it did not influence the outcome of World War II. Due to their very unique appearance, Hortense had an influence on the then developing theories about UFOs. Number 2, Die Glocke. Die Glocke means bell in German, and in English it is called the bell or Nazi bell. This experimental weapon owes its name to its external appearance. A round, massive base, a bell-shaped casing, and a metal tip. The diameter of the base was about 2 meters, and it was probably made of lead or another heavy metal. The casing, with a slightly smaller diameter, had the shape of a cylinder topped with something like a semi-spherical dome, with a radius equal to the radius of the cylinder. The theory goes that the Nazis started building Die Glocke as part of their work on the Wunderwaffe, or miracle weapon, which would allow Hitler to win the war. Many descriptions and theories have been created to describe this device. In some of them, it is an anti-gravity drive for flying vehicles. In others, a combat unit flying independently. And in still others, it is an unbridled generator of strange energy fields. According to Nazi propaganda disseminated at the end of the war, Die Glocke was intended to be a Nazi time-traveling device or occult weapon based on technology far beyond anything humanity could produce. The most credible version of Die Glocke is the one in which it is a drive for the Haunebu air vehicle. Number 1. Haunebu. This is a term for disc-shaped flying ships equipped with anti-gravity propulsion, constructed during World War II by German engineers for the air forces of the Third Reich, intended to be one of the Wunderwaffe projects. The ships were allegedly manufactured in Skoda factories in Prague and the Alp Mountains. Haunebu was to be a manned vehicle. The drive was to be a device operating in a manner similar to a gyroscope, based on rings rotating at a very high speed. The most advanced version was to be the Haunebu 3 prototype, approximately 70 meters in diameter, with a crew of 32 and capable of reaching a speed of Mach 10. Flying disc designs began in the 1920s in Germany. The first Haunebu flying craft was supposedly scheduled to take to the air in the summer of 1939, and by the end of the war, Haunebu 3 would soar into the stratosphere. Just before the end of the war, the ships were to be transported by U-boats to Antarctica to a secret base in the New Swabia region. According to the craziest theories in Antarctica, the Nazis continued work on the operation to send Haunebu to the moon in order to build the Schwarze Sonne base on the dark side of the moon, to rebuild the power of the Third Reich there and attack Earth again.